Chapter 1: The Kidnapping and the Unexpected Savior. The night air was thick with the electric hum of distant starships and the muted bustle of the spaceport's nocturnal rhythm. I had just finished my late shift as a cargo technician on the orbital station, Prime, a remote outpost known more for its treacherous trade routes than for hospitality or safety. My hands still carried the lingering scent of lubricant and ozone, and my thoughts were wrapped around the promise of a quiet night. Maybe a hot meal, a shower, and sleep. I walked briskly through the metallic corridors lined with flickering neon signs, my boots echoing softly against the cold steel floor. The station had a peculiar way of blending the old with the new, rusted ventilation shafts, juxtaposed with glowing holographic advertisements, a constant reminder of the tenuous balance between survival and progress in the outer rim of human space. I was nearly at the docking bay, where my small shuttle waited, ready to take me back to my cramped quarters, when I felt a sudden sharp tug on my arm. Before I could react, strong hands gripped me, twisting me violently into a shadowed alcove. My heart slammed against my ribs as a rag was pressed hard against my face, muffling my scream. The world spun wildly for a moment before darkness swallowed me whole. When I regained any semblance of consciousness, I found myself bound and gagged inside a dim, cramped cargo hold of an unfamiliar ship. The air was stale and cold, the walls metallic and unyielding, and my limbs tingled from the rough ropes that cut into my skin. The faint teetering of engines vibrated through the hull, confirming that this ship was not docked but actively traveling through the void. My kidnappers, a group of hardened mercenaries with cold eyes and scarred faces, stood nearby, exchanging low mutters about their prize and their plans for me. Their leader, a hulking brute with a cybernetic arm that gleamed menacingly, paced back and forth with cruel satisfaction. They wanted information about a shipment I was handling, a cache of rare mineral, or with rumored ties to illicit tech, and they were willing to use any means to get it. Panic churned in my gut as I realized that no one knew where I was, and my calls for help would be swallowed by the vastness of space. I was utterly alone and at their mercy, but fate, as it often does in the most unexpected ways, had other plans. Suddenly the heavy metallic door at the far end of the hold hissed open, revealing a figure so small and unassuming that I almost questioned my own senses. She was no taller than 1 meter, a slender alien woman with delicate features and luminous skin that seemed to pulse faintly with an inner light. Her large almond-shaped eyes gleamed like polished obsidian, sharp and piercing, filled with an intensity that immediately commanded attention. Despite her diminutive stature, her silvery blue hair framed a face that was simultaneously serene and fierce, as if a tempest raged behind her calm exterior. Without hesitation, she stepped forward, her movements fluid and confident. The mercenaries glanced at her with a mix of amusement and disbelief, underestimating the power hidden within that tiny frame. I watched, helpless yet fascinated, as the air in the hold seemed to shift, charged now with a palpable tension. The moment she laid eyes on me, her expression softened for a fraction of a second, then hardened into a mask of determination. What happened next was nothing short of astonishing. The mercenaries charged her, expecting an easy victory over what they perceived as a weak miniature alien, but they were Wrong, catastrophically wrong. In an explosion of movement, she became a whirlwind of destruction. Her limbs moved with impossible speed and precision, striking with the force of a hammer and the grace of a dancer. She flipped over a charging attacker, landing deathly on her feet before delivering a devastating elbow strike that sent him crashing into the bulkhead. Another reached for his blaster, but she disarmed him with a flick of her wrist and a deft twist of his wrist joint, leaving him howling in pain. She fought like a force of nature, each blow precise and brutal, a perfect fusion of martial skill and raw power. The mercenaries, despite their weapons and brute strength, were no match for her. Her size was deceptive. Every muscle in her compact frame was honed for battle, every movement executed with deadly intent. The metallic walls echoed with the sounds of grunts, impacts, and the occasional metallic clang as weapons were smashed or dropped. Blood splattered the floor and groans of pain filled the air as one by one the mercenaries fell or retreated, their confidence shattered amid the chaos. She reached me, her eyes meeting mine. With fierce urgency, with nimble fingers, she cut through my restraints, as if they were mere threads, freeing me from the ropes that bound me. My heart pounded wildly, not just from the adrenaline, but from the overwhelming relief and bewilderment at this enigmatic savior. I tried to speak to thank her, but my voice caught in my throat. She leaned close, her lips barely moving as she whispered words I could barely understand, but felt deep in my bones. Then, without waiting for an answer, she dragged me out of the hold and into the ship's central corridor. The ship was a labyrinth of sleek technology and alien design, the walls glowing softly with bioluminescent panels that pulsed like living veins. I struggled to keep up with her swift pace as she navigated the corridors with intimate knowledge. It was clear she belonged here, and yet there was something otherworldly about her, and being caught between worlds, she brought me to a small chamber that served as her quarters, sparse but meticulously organized. There she finally removed the gag from my mouth, and I gasped for air, my voice but filled with gratitude. Who are you? I managed to ask, my eyes still wide with shock. She smiled, rare and genuine curve of her lips that warmed the sterile room. My name is Nara. I have been watching you. You are important, though you do not yet understand why. Her voice was soft, but it carried the weight of ancient knowledge and unspoken promise. I wanted to believe her, to trust this fierce little warrior who had just torn through my kidnappers like they were nothing. But I was still too dazed to grasp the full meaning of her words. Then, as if to emphasize the seriousness of her mission, she reached into a small pouch and produced a shimmering device that projected a holographic star chart, pinpointing a remote and dangerous sector of space. They will come for you. Again, you must come with me. There is much to explain, much to prepare. Our fates are intertwined, and your survival depends on your willingness to trust me. As I looked at her, so small yet so unyielding, I felt an overwhelming surge of hope and uncertainty. The universe was far stranger and more dangerous than I had ever imagined, and this tiny alien woman who had just saved my life with unmatched ferocity was now asking me to leap into the unknown by her side. Little did I know that this was only the beginning of a journey that would challenge everything I believed about loyalty, courage, and the strange ties that binds souls across the vast cosmos. And beyond that, little did I know that she had plans for me that went far beyond mere survival. The ship's low hum vibrated through the walls as Nara guided me deeper into its bowels, her live form weaving effortlessly through the corridors, leaving no doubt that this vessel was hers as much as she seemed to belong to it. I stumbled after her, still weak from the shock of the kidnapping and rescue, my mind reeling from the sheer speed and brutality of her assault on those mercenaries. How could someone so small be so fierce? The image of her taking down those hulking men over and over played on a relentless loop in my head. Each seemed more vivid and surreal than the last. I swallowed hard, feeling the knot of fear loosening slightly, not because I trusted her entirely, but because in this cold, hostile universe, she was the only thing standing between me and certain death. As we arrived at what seemed to be a small quarters room, she motioned for me to sit on the narrow bench along the wall. The room was surprisingly cozy, bathed in soft ambient light emanating from panels embedded in the walls that shifted colors gently, mimicking the calming hues of a sunset. A few personal artifacts lay scattered on a metal table, small crystalline sculptures that refracted the light, delicate woven fabrics from a distant world, and a data pad that hummed quietly. Juxtaposition of warmth and technology was almost comforting. Nara finally removed the gag and I gasped, the dry air filling my lungs, relief flooding through me as I took deep breaths. Her eyes searched mine with an intensity that was almost unnerving. You are safe now, but not for long. They will come back. Your capture was no accident. You possess knowledge they want, knowledge that could change the balance of power across the sector. Her voice was low but urgent, and I realized her warning was more than just mercenaries chasing paycheck, was about much larger stakes than I had understood. Tell me, have you noticed anything unusual in your shipments? Anything that might have attracted their attention? I shook my head weakly, still struggling to gather my thoughts. The cargo I handled was routine, or so I thought, but now in the light of her revelation, I wondered if there was something buried deep, or something that I had overlooked or dismissed. Before I could respond, she produced a small device from her belted data crystal and slid it toward me. This contains information you need. It will help you understand who we are and why you must trust me. The crystal shimmered with an ethereal glow, the symbols on its surface unlike any human language I had seen before, a mixture of intricate runes and flowing script that danced like living fire. Nero paused, her expression softening ever so slightly. I am from a race called the Valerie. We are small in stature but fierce in spirit and ancient in knowledge. We have watched humanity's reach expand into the stars and have chosen to intervene where shadows gather and threats grow. Her words sent shivered down my spine. Here I was, an ordinary man caught in a conflict I barely understood, and yet this tiny warrior was revealing a secret war hidden behind the gleaming facade of galactic commerce and diplomacy. She leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. There is more, but it is not safe to say here. We must move to a secure location. Her eyes locked onto mine with a mix of determination and something deeper, hope maybe, or desperation. I found myself nodding in unspoken agreement, binding us together in that small, dimly lit room, just as I was beginning to process everything. Alarms blared through the ship, red. Lights flashed, casting the corridors. An ominous scarlet glow, the soft hum of the engines deepened into a resonant growl. Nara's body tensed instantly. Her eyes narrowing, they found us sooner than I expected. She grabbed my arm, pulling me to my feet with surprising strength. We have little time, you must be ready to leave everything behind. Without waiting for questions, she propelled me toward a narrow exit hatch. As we rushed through the ship's labyrinthine corridors, the echoes of distant footsteps and the sharp crackle of energy weapons grew louder. The mercenaries I thought we had defeated were regrouping, and they were coming back with reinforcements. Nira moved with fluid grace, leaping over obstacles, ducking under low beams, and sliding through narrow passages that seemed designed for beings much smaller than me. I struggled to keep pace, my breath ragged, but the urgency in her eyes pushed me forward. Suddenly, we burst into an open bay filled with sleek spacecraft gleaming under the stark artificial lighting. Nara stopped in front of a compact vessel barely larger than a speeder bike, but it radiated a powerful aura. She activated the controls with practiced efficiency, the cockpit canopy sliding open with a hiss. "This is our only chance," she said, her voice steady but urgent. "We must get off this station before they close the perimeter." I climbed in beside her, my hands trembling as I strapped in. The engines roared to life, a vibration that resonated deep within my chest. As the ship lifted off the station's surface, I caught a glimpse of the mercenary forces scrambling below, their shouts drowned out by the accelerating engines and the sudden plunge into the starry void. The station, once a beacon of civilization, was now a battleground we were leaving behind. Nara turned to me then, her small hand reaching across the narrow cockpit to grasp mine. "You owe me your life," she said simply, eyes locked on mine with an earnestness that took me back. "And I owe you mine for reasons you will soon understand." As the stars stretched into streaks of light ahead, I realized that nothing in my past life could prepare me for the journey ahead. With this fierce 1-meter-tall alien woman by my side, who had not only saved me but had now inexplicably bound fates together, I was stepping into a vast, dangerous galaxy where survival meant more than strength or cunning. It meant trust, sacrifice, and perhaps something far more extraordinary: connection that transcended worlds. And then, almost shyly, with a voice soft but resolute, she whispered, "When this is over, will you be mine?" Chapter 2. The flight into darkness and the secrets unveiled. The stars outside the cockpit stretched into long, luminous trails as Nira's compact ship tore through the void at unimaginable speed. The steady roar of the engines was a constant reminder of the narrow escape we had just made. Yet inside the tiny cabin, silence hung heavy, broken only by the irregular rhythm of my own thoughts. I was still reeling from everything that had happened: the brutal attack by those mercenaries, Nara's astonishing combat prowess, and her cryptic proposal that hinted at a bond one barely understood. My fingers clenched nervously around the cold metal armrest, my mind racing to make sense of the whirlwind that had upended my life so violently and so swiftly. Nara sat beside me, her gaze focused forward, but I could feel the tension radiating off her small frame. Like heat, her silvery blue hair caught the cockpit lights, shimmering softly as if alive with an internal energy. Despite her diminutive stature, she exuded an aura of unyielding strength, an ancient wisdom that made me feel both protected and awed. I had never encountered an alien like her, not in my entire life. Working the cargo bays and shipping manifests of the Outer Rim, the Valerie, she had called her people, mysterious, secretive, and now inexplicably intertwined with my fate. But why me? Why had she chosen to save a lowly human like myself and bring me aboard her ship with such urgency? Breaking the silence, I finally mustered the courage to ask the question that had been burning inside my mind since I woke up in her quarters. Nara, why me? What do you see in me that made you risk everything to rescue me from those mercenaries? Her eyes flickered with a mix of surprise and something almost tender. You carry something, she said, slowly choosing her words with care. Fragment of knowledge buried deep within your memories and your work. You do not yet understand its significance, but others have seen it too, the shadowy figures who sent those mercenaries after you. It is a secret that could tip the balance of power in the galaxy. You are more important than you realize. Her voice was soft but carried the weight of certainty, like an ancient prophecy unfolding in real time. I swallowed hard, trying to grasp what she was implying. The shipments I'd been handling had seemed routine, precious ores and minerals from the asteroid belts, nothing that screamed danger or conspiracy. Yet Nara's conviction suggested otherwise. What kind of knowledge? What are they after? Before she could answer, the ship's comm system crackled to life, a distorted, ominous voice seeping through the static. Valor. Ship detected leaving station. All units intercept immediately. Do not allow escape. The voice was mechanical, clipped and chilling in its robotic precision. Nara's eyes narrowed and she pressed a sequence of buttons on the console. They have reinforcements, she muttered grimly. Our window to disappear is closing fast. The cockpit shook as enemy ships appeared on the radar, sleek fighters cutting through space like hunting hawks. My heart pounded as Nara expertly maneuvered the ship into evasive patterns, weaving between asteroids and through narrow nebula clouds that obscured sensors. Her hands flew over the controls, each movement precise and practiced, revealing years of experience navigating the treacherous edges of known space. I gripped my seat, barely breathing as pulses of energy blasted nearby, lighting up the void with deadly bursts. During a brief lull, she turned to me, eyes blazing. I will explain everything once we are safe, but know this: the Valor have long watched over the Outer Rim, guardians of knowledge and keepers of secrets that many would kill to possess. Our history is tangled with human expansion, often in the shadows, unseen and unacknowledged. You have stumbled into a war that has been brewing for centuries. A war fought not with fleets and armies, but with whispers, betrayals, and forbidden technology. Her words felt like a heavy cloak draped over my shoulders, suffocating yet oddly comforting. The idea that my mundane existence as a cargo technician could be a thread in such a vast tapestry was overwhelming, yet I trusted her for all her fierceness and mystery. She was the only ally I had, and she had risked her life for me. Hours passed as we darted through the galaxy's dark reaches, finally reaching a hidden Valerie sanctuary carved into the side of a barren moon orbiting a gas giant. The Surface was jagged and harsh, covered in crystalline formations that glowed faintly under the planet's dim sun. Sanctuary was an ancient structure, a blend of organic valery architecture and alien technology, its walls pulsating with life and power. As we landed, Nara's demeanor softened, her fierce warrior guise replaced by something more vulnerable. Inside the sanctuary's depths, she finally began to unravel the secrets I was desperate to know. The Valor, she explained, were descendants of an ancient starfing civilization whose knowledge had been lost to time, their culture blending mysticism and science in ways humanity was only beginning to grasp. They had long safeguarded relics and data caches containing technologies that could alter the course of civilization's tools of creation and destruction alike. She revealed that the data crystal she had given me contained fragments of a map, coordinates to a forgotten archive, buried deep within the galactic core, a place where forbidden knowledge was stored. That knowledge, if wielded by the wrong hands, could unleash devastation on a scale no one could contain. The mercenaries who captured me were pawns of a ruthless faction seeking to control this power and reshape the galaxy in their image. I felt the enormity of the burden settling on me. And you want me to help you protect this archive? Nara nodded solemnly. You are the key, your unique position, your memories, even your instincts, they are linked to the archive. Somehow you were meant to find this knowledge to keep it safe from those who would abuse it. But time is running out. The forces aligned against us are growing stronger. They will stop at nothing to capture you and seize the archive. The weight of her words crushed me, but beneath it all, a spark of determination ignited. If I was to survive, I would need to trust Nara completely. And more than that, I would need to accept the strange bond that was forming between us for reasons I could not yet fully understand. She was not just my protector, but something more, a partner, a guide, and, as she had hinted, perhaps the companion I would need to face the darkness ahead. As the moon's twin sunset beyond the crystalline horizon, casting long shadows over the sanctuary's walls, Nara reached out and took my hand gently. Her touch was warm and steady. When this war ends, she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion, I want you to know I have chosen you, not just as an ally, but as someone far more important. Her confession hung in the air between us, fragile yet unyielding. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with danger and sacrifice. But for the first time since that fateful night, I felt a flicker of hope, a hope born from the fierce heart of a tiny alien woman who had beaten my kidnappers to save me, and now dared to propose a future that neither of us could yet imagine. Chapter 3: Shadows of the Past and the Rising Storm. The days that followed our arrival at the Valor Sanctuary were unlike anything I had ever experienced. The sanctuary, nestled deep within the crystalline caves of the moon's jagged surface, felt like a world apart from the chaos that had chased us through the stars. Its walls seemed to breathe with ancient life, pulsing faintly with ethereal light that danced across intricate symbols carved into the rock. Here the air was thick with the scent of ionized minerals and something more, something intangible, like the lingering essence of centuries old secrets whispered in forgotten tongues. As Nero led me through winding corridors, past chambers filled with glowing data, orbs and humming consoles of alien design, I was overwhelmed by a sense of awe and trepidation. This was no refuge, it was a vault of history, knowledge and power guarded fiercely by a people who had long existed on the fringes of the galaxy's unfolding story. Nera's presence was constant and unwavering, though small in stature. She seemed to grow in stature within these halls, as if the sanctuary itself drew strength from her connection to it. She was both warrior and scholar, fierce guardian and gentle guide, a paradox embodied in a single form. Her eyes held 1,000 unspoken tales of loss, of war, of survival, and I felt the weight of those stories pressing upon me. Even as she sought to ease my fear, she introduced me to others of her kind, elders with eyes like molten gold, their voices resonating with wisdom, young initiates whose curiosity was tempered by reverence, and warriors whose scars told stories of battles fought in shadowy corners of the cosmos. Yet, despite the community's warmth, there was an unmistakable tension underlying every interaction, a collective awareness that the threat looming over us was both immediate and existential. During long hours spent poring over the data crystal's encrypted files, Nera began to unravel the complex tapestry of intrigue that had ensnared me. The archive hidden at the galactic core was no ordinary repository. It was the culmination of millennia of knowledge accumulated by civilizations that had risen and fallen in the vastness of space. Within its vaults lay blueprints for technologies capable of bending reality, weapons of unimaginable power, and philosophical treatises that challenged the very nature of existence. The Veiler had sworn to protect this trove from those who would exploit it for domination or destruction, but factions across the galaxy, the corporate syndicates, rogue militaries, and secretive cults had learned of its existence. They had dispatched agents, spies, and assassins to retrieve fragments of the map hidden within various innocuous carriers. Somehow my role as a mere cargo technician had placed me at the epicenter of this perilous hunt. Ner's revelations painted a grim picture. The mercenaries who had captured me were mere pawns in a much larger game, their brutal tactics orchestrated by a shadowy cabal known only as the Eclipse Consortium. This group sought to harness the archive's power to ignite a war that would reshape the galaxy under their iron rule. Time was running out, and every moment spent in hiding allowed the Consortium to tighten their net. Yet amidst the fear and uncertainty, a strange bond between Nera and me deepened. Our nights were filled with quiet conversations beneath the sanctuary's bioluminescent ceilings, where she shared fragments of Veilery history and whispered legends of starborn souls destined to converge. Her voice was a soothing balm to my frayed nerves, and her touch a grounding force in the swirling chaos. One evening, as twin moons cast a silver glow over the sanctuary's crystalline spires, Nera led me to a secluded chamber lined with ancient relics. There, she revealed a small pendant intricately crafted with symbols that shimmered like liquid starlight. This, she said, fastening it around my neck, is a Veilery bond crystal. It links us not just in purpose but in spirit. Through it we share strength, memories, and hope. The sensation was immediate and profound, a warmth spreading through my chest, clarity of thought that sharpened my senses. It was as if a veil had been lifted, revealing hidden pathways within my mind and soul. But even as we fortified our connection, the shadow of The Eclipse Consortium grew ever darker. Scouts reported approaching fleets, and whispers of betrayal echoed through the sanctuary's halls. The Valar elders convened in solemn council there. Deliberations of blend of strategy, ancient rites and desperate hope. Nera stood at the heart of these discussions, her determination unshaken despite the mounting peril. She confided in me that the coming days would test not only our strength but our very resolve, that the battle for the archive was inevitable, and its outcome would shape the fate of countless worlds. Then came the night that changed everything. The sanctuaries. Alarms shattered the fragile peace. Red lights flooding the cavernous halls as warning sirens blared. The Eclipse Consortium had launched a surprise assault, their forces breaching the outer defenses with overwhelming firepower. The air filled with the acrid scent of plasma and the staccato rhythm of gunfire as warriors clashed in brutal combat. Nero was a tempest unleashed, her movements a blur of grace and fury, as she fought to protect the sanctuary's heart and, more importantly, the fragile life intertwined with her own mind. Amid the chaos, I found myself thrust into a role I had never imagined. Guided by Ner's steady hand and whispered commands, I operated ancient Valar technology, unlocking hidden defenses and rallying the sanctuary's defenders. The bond crystal pulsed against my skin, a constant reminder of our shared fate. Every moment was a test of endurance, every breath a gamble against oblivion. And yet, amidst the storm of violence, a deeper truth emerged. This was not just a battle for survival, but a crucible, forging a new future. When the dust finally settled, the sanctuary bore scars but remained standing. The Consortium's forces had been repelled, but at great cost. Nera collapsed beside me, exhaustion etched into her delicate features, yet her eyes shone with fierce pride and unyielding hope. We have won this battle, she whispered, but the war is far from over. In the quiet aftermath, as the sanctuary's lights dimmed to a gentle glow, I realized that my life had been irrevocably changed. The tiny alien woman who had beaten my kidnappers and proposed a future beyond my wildest dreams had become my protector, my partner, and the key to a destiny that spanned the stars. Together we would face the darkness ahead, bound not only by necessity but by a profound connection that defied the vast distances between our worlds. And as I looked into Ner's eyes, I knew that whatever trials awaited us, we would meet them as one, two souls intertwined against the infinite night. Chapter 4. The final choice in the promise beyond stars. The moments that followed the brutal skirmish at the sanctuary passed in a blur of exhaustion, whispered plans, and the cold weight of inevitability pressing down upon us both. The wounds of battle, both physical and emotional, were raw, and the sanctuary, though still standing, bore the scars of a violent storm as dawn's pale lights seeped through the crystalline walls, casting fractured rainbows upon the battle-worn floor. I found myself sitting beside Nera in a quiet chamber deep within the heart of the Valar refuge. Her breathing was steady but labored, each breath a testament to the indomitable spirit contained within her small frame. I reached out, brushing a strand of her shimmering hair back from her face, feeling the soft warmth beneath my fingertips. It was in that fragile silence that I realized how profoundly our lives had intertwined, how a chance encounter, a fierce rescue, and Whispered promises had woven us into something neither of us could have foreseen: the weight of everything, the mercenaries, the Eclipse Consortium, the ancient archives of forbidden knowledge. The battles fought in shadows pressed on my mind, but it was Neera's gaze that held me captive. There was an unspoken question in her eyes, a silent plea that transcended words. It was then that she spoke, her voice soft but unwavering. The final choice is upon us. The archive must be secured beyond reach, hidden where neither the consortium nor any other power can find it. But to do so, a sacrifice must be made, one that will bind our fates forever. Her words sent a shiver down my spine. The sacrifice she spoke of was no mere act of war or strategy. It was a pledge of soul and spirit, a bond forged not just in necessity, but in the deepest essence of our beings. Nera reached into her pouch and produced 2 crystalline rings, radiant with an inner light that seemed to pulse in harmony with our bond. Crystal, these symbolize the union required to seal the archive's location, a merging of veilery and human essence, promise of protection and partnership. By accepting, you become more than an ally, you become my partner in all things, the keeper of the secret and the guardian of a future yet unwritten. My heart raced as I contemplated the magnitude of her proposal. It was no longer simply about survival or rebellion against a merciless foe. It was about forging a future that transcended worlds and species, a future that demanded trust, courage, and love. In equal measure, I took the ring she offered, its cool surface humming with energy as it slipped onto my finger. The moment it settled, a surge of warmth flooded through me, a tangible connection binding me to Nera beyond the physical. Her eyes shone with unshed tears of relief and hope. Together, she whispered, we can protect this galaxy from the darkness that threatens to consume it. As I slid the matching ring onto her delicate finger, a brilliant pulse of light enveloped us both, a radiant beacon sealing our destinies in unbreakable harmony. With the bonds of partnership sealed, we prepared for the final leg of our journey, the transfer of the archive's map to a new secret location hidden within the swirling heart of a nearby nebula. The journey was perilous, fraught with danger as consortium forces scrambled to intercept us at every turn. Yet aboard Nera's agile ship we moved like shadows, weaving through cosmic storms and gravitation. Maelstrom with a grace born of desperation and unwavering resolve. During the long voyage we shared moments that transcended words. In the quiet solitude of space, away from battles and betrayals, we found solace in each other's presence. Neera's stories of her people, their ancient wisdom and struggles, painted a tapestry of resilience and hope. I shared tales of Earth, of human flaws and dreams, bridging the chasm between our worlds. With laughter and tears, our bond deepened beyond the mystical connection of crystals and promises. It became a living, breathing testament to unity. Amidst chaos, at last we reached the heart of the nebula, a swirling vortex of incandescent gas and stardust that hid countless secrets within its depths. There, nestled among pulsating stars and shifting shadows, lay the sanctuary for the archive, a forgotten space station built to go by a civilization long vanished. Its systems flickered to life as we docked, responding to the bond crystals that now linked our souls. Together, we initiated the transfer, watching as data streams flowed like rivers of light into the station's core. sealing the knowledge behind layers of encryption and ancient safeguards. But the Eclipse Consortium was relentless. Their flagship emerged from the nebula's edge, a looming behemoth casting shadows that swallowed stars. The final battle was inevitable, with weapons charged and hearts steeled. Nara and I prepared to defend the archive, knowing that failure meant not just the loss of knowledge, but the unraveling of everything we had fought to protect. The fight was brutal, a tempest of fire and metal, strategy and sacrifice. Side by side we faced the Consortium's forces, our bond crystal glowing fiercely as it amplified our strengths and shielded us from harm. In the crescendo of conflict, as the enemy flagship threatened to unleash a devastating blast that could annihilate the station, Nero made a choice that stunned me. With a fierce cry, she plunged herself into the core's energy conduit, channeling the station's power through her small frame. The sacrifice was immense, her life force intertwining with the archive's defenses, creating an impenetrable shield that repelled the attack but left her weakened, barely clinging to existence. I reached for her, tears blurring my vision as I whispered promises of a future that we had only just begun to imagine. With the Consortium repelled in the archive secure, we retreated to the sanctuary, battered but unbroken. Nera's strength waned, but her spirit burned brighter than ever. As I held her hand, I knew that our journey was far from over. The galaxy awaited, full of shadows and light, and together we would face whatever storms came next. In that quiet chamber beneath the fractured light of distant stars, Nera looked into my eyes and smiled, a smile that spoke of love, hope, and an unyielding promise. You saved me as much as I saved you. Now we protect the future together. And with those words, our souls bound by fate and choice, we stepped into the endless night, ready to write our story among the stars. The moment after Nera sacrificed so much of herself to protect the archive was suspended in time. Fragile, aching pause between chaos and calm. The glow from her bond crystal dimmed slightly, yet it pulsed with a steady heartbeat that seemed to echo inside my own chest. I cradled her small, trembling form in my arms, feeling the incredible weight of what she had done and what it meant for us both. Her breath was shallow, but her eyes, those fierce and shining orbs that had first captivated me, remained fixed on mine with a fierce tenderness that melted away every fear. I whispered promises, pledges of unyielding support and undying devotion, my voice breaking beneath the flood of emotion. The bond between us was no longer just mystical. It was a lifeline, a tether binding two souls forged in the crucible of survival and hope. In the days that followed, as the sanctuary systems hummed steadily and the threat of the Eclipse Consortium receded into distant shadows, Nera slowly regained her strength. The healing energies of the Veiler Sanctuary mingled with the bond we shared, knitting together flesh and spirit with an ancient grace. We spent endless hours side by side, the boundaries between alien and human, warrior and protector, blurring into a shared existence. She taught me more about her people's philosophy, the intertwining of life and energy, the belief that love and duty were not separate paths but one and the same. I told her about Earth, about humanity's flawed but passionate grasp at meaning and connection. In this exchange, our worlds converged, creating something new, something neither of us could have foreseen. One evening, beneath a canopy of swirling stars that painted the sanctuary's crystalline walls. In ethereal light, Nara took my hand and smiled softly. "The battle has changed us," she murmured. "What began as rescue has become partnership. What began as necessity has blossomed into something far greater. I asked you once, will you be mine? Now I ask again, not out of duty but out of the deepest truth of my heart. Will you stay with me? Beyond the battles, beyond the stars, and into whatever future we choose to build together." Tears welled in my eyes, the fullness of our journey crashing over me like a tidal wave against all odds across the vast gulf of space and difference. We had found something precious and fragile, a bond of love and trust that transcended worlds. "Yes," I answered, my voice firm with conviction. "I will be yours and you will be mine. Together we face whatever comes." In the weeks that followed, we rebuilt the sanctuary stronger than before, preparing for the inevitable challenges that lay ahead. The archive's secrets were safe, but the galaxy was vast and restless, full of dangers and wonders alike. Yet with Nero by my side, I felt ready to confront whatever darkness dared to rise. Our bond crystal gleamed between us, a symbol of unity and hope, its light guiding us into the endless night. Our story, born from rescue and sealed in combat, was only just beginning. Across the stars, in the face of shadow and light, we would carve a path together. The 1M tall alien woman who had beaten my kidnappers, saved my life, and dared to propose a future bound with mine, had become my partner, my equal, my love. And as we stood together beneath the swirling cosmos, hands entwined and hearts united, I knew that no matter what storms the galaxy held, we would weather them all side by side forever.